Back in 1680, in what is now Benin City, southern Nigeria, something happened that would change the fate of one of Africa's greatest kingdoms forever. The Kingdom of Benin was not a small or fragile society. It was powerful, organized, and deeply respected. For centuries, Benin was known across Africa and beyond for its extraordinary artistry, especially its bronze and brass works. Masterpieces so advanced that Europeans later refused to believe Africans created them. At the center of this kingdom stood the Oba of Benin. He was not just a king. He was seen as a divine ruler, a living bridge between the spiritual world and the people. His word carried the weight of law, tradition, and destiny. Benin's strength also came from its strategic location. Trade routes connected the kingdom to other African states, and eventually to Europeans. Ivory, pepper, coral, and enslaved people were exchanged for brass, textiles, and firearms. Trade brought wealth. Wealth brought influence. But trade also brought something else: foreign eyes. By the late 1600s, Portuguese and English traders had become frequent visitors. They did not rule Benin directly, but through trade agreements they began shaping its economy. Slowly, quietly, as European demand for enslaved people increased, pressure grew within the kingdom. Some saw opportunity, others saw danger. Inside Benin, tension began to rise. Elders worried that tradition was being replaced by profit. Warriors feared dependence on foreign weapons. And the Oba watched carefully, knowing that power gained too easily could be lost just as fast. The kingdom stood at a crossroads. And then, the Oba made a decision that shocked everyone. A decision meant to protect Benin, but one that would ignite betrayal. In 1680, under growing pressure from within and beyond his borders, the Oba of Benin made a bold move. He declared a ban on the export of enslaved people. To the Oba, this was an act of sovereignty, a way to protect his people from exploitation, a stand against foreign control. But to others, it was a disaster. The merchant elites, who had grown rich through trade with Europeans, saw the ban as a direct attack on their power. Their wealth depended on the trade. Their influence depended on foreign demand. And now the Oba stood in their way. Whispers spread through Benin City. Meetings were held behind closed doors. Anger turned into strategy. The merchants found allies among disgruntled warriors and ambitious nobles. Men who believed Benin needed a ruler who embraced profit, not restraint. They called the Oba old-fashioned, out of touch, an obstacle to progress. Soon the plan was clear. If the Oba would not restore the trade, he would be removed. On a moonless night, the conspirators moved. Torches flickered as armed men approached the royal palace, the sacred heart of Benin. They believed surprise would secure victory. But the Oba was not blind. He had sensed the unrest. The palace was fortified. Loyal retainers stood ready. What followed was chaos. Steel clashed against steel. Shouts echoed through halls once reserved for ceremony. The palace, symbol of divine authority, became a battlefield. The fighting lasted for hours. By dawn, the conspirators had won. The Oba was overthrown. But victory came at a terrible cost. The unity that had defined Benin for generations was shattered. Families turned against one another. Trust collapsed. And as the sun rose over Benin City, one truth became clear: the kingdom would never be the same again. With the Oba removed, a new ruler took the throne, one more willing to reopen trade with Europeans. The ban on enslaved people was lifted. Trade resumed. Profits returned. But something else disappeared. Benin's cultural balance began to crumble. Artisans lost royal protection. Sacred traditions were ignored. Decisions were driven by wealth, not wisdom. Old rivalries resurfaced, and civil unrest spread through the kingdom. Power was no longer sacred, it was negotiated. As European demand for enslaved people increased, Benin became more entangled in foreign interests. What once was a proud empire slowly lost control of its destiny. By the end of the 17th century, the Kingdom of Benin, once one of Africa's greatest powers, was weakened from within. Not destroyed by invasion, not conquered by war, but undone by betrayal, greed, and external influence. The events of 1680 left a permanent scar on Benin's history, a reminder that the greatest threats to a civilization often come from inside its own walls. If you enjoy African history and stories of forgotten empires, subscribe for more powerful stories like this. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? Because history lives on when we remember it.